As consciousness returns, the scene unfolds at the gates of Yuan Li's black castle. The Mad Lord beside me, his power so overwhelming that he could destroy the fortress and its master with a mere gesture. He confirms the presence of countless resentful souls beneath the castle, and after some disturbing muttering, hurls a small stone statue that rapidly swells to a mountain size and crashes down, obliterating the castle's defenses. Yuan Li, desperate, tries to resist with blood clouds, but the Mad Lord, unfazed and eerily fixated on his own twisted artistry, dismisses all pleas. Before the destruction is complete, a river of blue light streaks across the sky. Seo Huayol, the Sea Dragon King, intervenes, lifting the massive statue with swirling energy and chastising the Mad Lord for causing chaos. Unimpressed, the Mad Lord retorts, threatens to turn Seo Whale into soup, and unleashes further chaos from his endless trove of bizarre treasures. Seizing the opportunity, I slip inside the ruined castle where Yuan Li awaits, fearful and confused. Yuan Li, who has yet to commit his future atrocities, is not technically my enemy, but the stench of blood, the suffering of souls, and the evidence of his sinister cultivation leave no room for mercy. Drawing my colorless glass sword, I attack without hesitation, easily overwhelming him. His arsenal of Dharma treasures and defenses are meaningless before the formless sword, which bypasses all obstacles and slices through his body and golden core again and again. Each time he regenerates, I simply cut him down again, denying him even the chance to gather his scattered blood spirits. He summons ghost beasts and ghost kings, turning the battle into an uneven fight, but I feel no pressure. The clarity of my intent and the insights of the treading heaven realm allow me to perceive and cut through every vital weakness, shattering his most crucial defenses. His attacks, even those laced with hidden spells, are rendered useless as I instinctively slice through the planes binding his essence. Cornered and desperate, Yuan Li tries to reason, even pleads for his life, but I remain unmoved. I ask him if life is a blessing or a curse. He insists life is a blessing and death a curse, but I reply that neither are inherently so, and that he, who had so carelessly stolen others' lives, cannot expect mercy. With a final swing, I split his head and soul, ending him before he could become the monster of the massacre. Exiting the ruined castle, I find Mad Lord and Seo Huayol engaged in their bizarre standoff, the air tense with hidden threats. Seo, after a brief, unsettling exchange, surprisingly expresses satisfaction at Yuan Li's demise and warns me of the Mad Lord's dangerous interest, hinting at his habit of turning people into living puppets. After the other cultivators disperse, Mad Lord investigates the castle's remains and uncovers a mysterious, fate-laden treasure. But I take the chance to silently retreat, knowing that staying near him courts disaster. Just as I think I've escaped, a grotesque puppet reminiscent of the Mad Lord appears beside me, his voice echoing with manic glee as he declares his intent to evolve me into a superior being. Dozens more puppets loom on the horizon, all hunting me down. Terrified at the prospect of being transformed into one of the Mad Lord's creations, I flee desperately across the heaven, treading desert, the hunt only just beginning. The relentless pursuit by the Mad Lord intensifies as the protagonist desperately tries to evade his tireless puppets across the heaven, treading desert, pushing himself beyond exhaustion for days. Despite briefly considering striking back, he refrained, fearing even greater wrath. As days drag into more than a week with no sign of relief, the chase pushes him to the Black Wind Sea, where even the sea is no refuge. The Mad Lord's puppets shift into aquatic forms and continue the hunt. Realizing he cannot outrun this threat, he decides to use the nether crossing ship, knowing Song Jin will understand given the dire circumstances. Just as the protagonist finally sees hope, with the Mad Lord apparently preparing to leave for Ascension, a new horror emerges. The Mad Lord, now collaborating with an entity referred to as her, tears open the sky, letting through a pale, human-like hand whose mere presence splits sea and sky. The pressure from this hand is as terrifying as that of Song Jin, revealing her to be a four-axis puppet, an existence of overwhelming power. Hordes of puppets flood out, filling the sky like a nightmare. Cornered and overwhelmed, the protagonist contemplates suicide as the only escape, reasoning that without meaningful bonds in this life, he can abandon it, especially after his recent conversation with Yuan Li. Yet, a sudden worry for the fate of the colorless glass sword, which may not survive regression without the white red wine, makes him reconsider. Determined to at least secure the white red wine first, he makes a desperate dash to Serving Command Palace. After a frantic chase, he breaks into the palace, racing against the oncoming her, who is already tearing through barriers. He seizes the white red wine, drinks it, and immediately feels his connection to his Dharma treasures deepen, just as he is caught in the immense gravitational pull of Here's hand, unable to resist. In a last-ditch effort, he recalls the path of treading heaven beyond the path and attempts to mimic Kim Young-hoon's space cutting, surpassing Radiant Saber with his own formless sword. For an instant, his sword shines with golden light and he escapes the void, reappearing in the mortal realm alongside Song Jin and the Nether Crossing ship. With no time to spare, the protagonist requests a soul-binding technique from Song Jin, who grudgingly agrees as Her's arm emerges even further from a new spatial rift. Song Jin binds a ghost to the protagonist's soul, forcibly ejecting him from the Nether Crossing ship, just as Her's hand reaches for him. In his final act, the protagonist concentrates the energy of the formless sword toward his head, ending his life and triggering his 12th regression. After a harrowing regression brought on by self-destruction, the familiar agony of returning to the start is compounded by a new, sharper pain. Part of the soul has been torn away, showing that sentient beings cannot travel through time with the protagonist, unlike lifeless treasures. The ghost that had latched onto the soul is gone, leaving behind a raw wound. Despite the regret and guilt, the resolve is renewed to value each life. As the protagonist awakens, John Myung-hoon's attempts to scold and strike are met with bemused patience. After centuries of facing ancient monsters, even John's anger seems childish. Reuniting with old colleagues brings a wave of nostalgia, especially as they remain oblivious to the true nature of their new world. Climbing a tree with casual mastery and starting a fire with martial technique, the protagonist's abilities draw awe and confusion, while memories of mundane things like smartphones are already faded after nearly a millennium. A peaceful night spent sharing fruit and conversation with co-workers feels like a rare blessing after centuries of isolation, but things soon return to the extraordinary. After regaining strength with yellow bamboo root, the protagonist finds the consciousness domain as vast as any core formation experts and demonstrates advanced martial arts by splitting gang spheres and wielding the formless sword with devastating precision. When the fox demon appears, it is immediately subdued and forced to yield its demon core, losing much of its power and intelligence in the process, and is taken as a temporary companion. The next day, the appearance of the three-tailed fox, followed by the return of the two-headed snake, shocks the modern co-workers even more, eroding their sense of reality. Soon, the heavenly beings descend, the Grand Elder of Black Ghost Valley, the Sect Master of the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder Sect, and the Azure Tiger Saint. The protagonist hides true strength, avoiding their interests, but is given a recommendation by Azure Tiger Saint to join the Chungmun clan if the Fox's demon core is delivered. As the other sects leave, Deputy O is again taken by Seo H. Whale, and, unable to change this fate, the protagonist stands aside, feeling the futility of resistance. Kim Yeon's awakening draws the Mad Lord who claims her as a disciple and throws the protagonist and Kim Young-hoon into a spatial rift. The fox is dragged along as well. They emerge underground in Liangshan City, the very place where everything began so many lifetimes ago. After rescuing Kim Young-hoon and the fox, the protagonist swiftly secures money, identity, a residence, and teachers for Kim Young-hoon, implanting vital martial knowledge and future cultivation paths in his mind. The fox, restored with its demon core, is bound to protect Kim Young-hoon in exchange for its own life. With all this arranged, the protagonist sets off alone, now possessing the strength and cultivation once only dreamed of. The time has come to finally confront the Ascension Gate, a goal set countless years ago. Though unable to protect the colleagues in this life, determination hardens. This time, every effort will be focused on finding a way home, no matter the cost. With a final look skyward, the journey continues towards the unknown, the Ascension Gate, and the hope of return. After parting ways with Kim Young-hoon, Seo Yun isolates himself on a mountain to begin forming his inner core, drawing energy through the Baihui point atop his head where all meridians converge. As the inner core disperses into his body, it fuses with the formless sword, turning his entire being into the sword itself. With this power, he can now cut through spiritual energy and, perhaps, even the boundaries between dimensions. Embodying the formless sword, he moves at speeds surpassing any technique he's known and sets off to fulfill duties left in Yangguo. His first visit is to the Jin clan, where he quietly observes his former disciples as they sleep, apologizing for past failings and the burdens he forced upon them. He acknowledges that his powerlessness back then prevented him from saving them from cruel fates, but now, with newfound strength, he promises to use his power for their well-being. In the Jin clan's soul storage, He severs the technique's binding souls to crystal orbs, setting the spirits free and wishing them peace. His next target is the Mockley clan, infamous for their betrayals and dark practice. Flying to their underground palace beneath Seokyung City, a vast domain filled with devilish energy, Seo Yun Yun confronts their gatekeepers and delivers a simple ultimatum: cease sacrificing innocents, abandon their foundation in Yangguo, and hold rights for their victims. When met with outrage and attacks, he effortlessly slays the guards and enters the palace, where he's confronted by Makli Huangqion, 7 core formation elders, and hundreds of chi-building cultivators. Despite being mistaken for a less powerful cultivator, Seo Yun Yun reveals the true might of his treading heaven formless sword. When surrounded and attacked by overwhelming numbers and powerful spells, he unleashes colorless, formless trajectories that slice through spells, treasures, and even the mountains themselves. His sword techniques, fused with the formless sword, become like natural disasters, splitting the Mokli clan's palace and devastating their ranks. Mokli Huangqiong and his elders attempt to trap Seo In-hyun with their strongest formation, engulfing him in devilish fire meant to refine him into a Jiangshi. However, Seo Yun-hyun tears through the barrier with sheer force, emerging unscathed and declaring the Mokli clan's end. He warns that those who did not flee have chosen death. Calling upon the ultimate severing mountain swordsmanship, he unleashes a storm of destruction, shattering mountains and obliterating the palace. In a single day, the Mokli clan, one of Yangguo's great powers, is wiped from history by Seo Yun-hyun's hand. After emerging from the ruins of the Mokli clan with their power broken and their spirit stones in hand, the protagonist turns south, intent on meeting Song Jin and Seo Ran. Traveling swiftly above the sea, he finds Seo Ran in his underwater dwelling, confirming the young demi-human's identity and requesting the space-breaking bead entrusted to him by Seo Hueo. With the bead in hand, he offers to help Seo Ran infiltrate the nether-crossing ship, slicing through formidable barriers with ease and drawing astonished awe from Seo Ran. Inside the ship, they encounter Song Jin, the remnant soul of a heavenly being who guards the vessel. After a tense introduction, Song Jin grants Seo Ran half a day to seek his mother's relic. Guided to the right chamber, Seo Ran discovers a jade slip left by his mother and begins to read. Joined by the watchful Song Jin, while they are occupied, the protagonist waits on the deck, reflecting on the event. 3 days pass before Song Jin approaches, curious about the protagonist's motives for supporting Seo Ran. The protagonist claims it's at Jiang Haiyang's request. Song Jin, moved, decides to take Seo Ran as his disciple, thus reforging their fateful bond. In gratitude, both Song Jin and Seo Ran offer to fulfill future requests. The protagonist's first demand is to use the nether crossing ship, paying with the Mokli clan's spirit stone. Song Jin agrees, and they set course for the Sea Dragon Palace. Arriving at the palace, the protagonist pierces its defensive barrier with his own power, leading Song Jin and Seo Ran inside. When Seo Ran is struck by a lingering curse, he hears the voice of Zhon Hyang, prompting a search for a particular book. When Song Jin examines the book, a remnant of Sea Dragon King Seo Whale's consciousness erupts, but Song Jin quickly commands the nether crossing ship to devour it, ending the threat. With the danger gone, Seo Ran is finally able to read Jian Haiyang's diary, and the truth about Seo Hue's deception brings him to tears. The protagonist urges him to accept the truth and make wise choices, as was Zhon Hang's dying wish. With debts settled, Song Jin agrees to further use of the nether crossing ship. They next travel to a desert where a black castle looms, guarded by countless resentful souls. Song Jin unleashes the power of the nether crossing ship and his own ghostly might, shattering the barrier around the castle. Despite Yuan Li's desperate resistance, the castle survives the onslaught, though much of it is destroyed, and within, Yuan Li is grievously wounded but not slain. Amid the chaos, the protagonist notices a stone fragment crackling with golden lightning, the very fragment that had once floated at the heart of Ascension Path by the Ascension Gate, a sight that leaves him stunned. Memories of the steel on Ascension Path resurface as the link between the torn-off portion and the current steel becomes clear, revealing its connection to the golden divine heavenly thundersack. As Yuan Li, battered and bloodied, attempts a desperate counterattack, the power of the Black Castle falters once he's forced outside, leaving him vulnerable. With the help of Seo Ran, who commands the demon souls to kneel, and Song Jin, who uses the nether crossing ship to draw in ghost kings, Yuan Li's forces are swiftly dismantled. Yuan Li unleashes a torrent of devilish spells and blood arts, but all are swept aside as the formless sword cuts through his defenses, repeatedly destroying his regenerating body until his strength is finally exhausted. Yuan Li, realizing defeat, begs for his life and offers knowledge, treasures, and secrets in exchange for mercy. He's forced to swear loyalty on the Nether Crossing ship, binding his soul, and then divulges the truth about the Black Castle and his lineage. The castle was once a shrine of the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder Sect, severed and lost in the ancient war. Yuan Li's ambitions are laid bare. He sought to ascend not through the main ascension gate, but through the Blood Yin realm, a sinister upper world suited for the most extreme devil cultivators. He explains the upper realms, the nature of ascension, and details his knowledge of forbidden rituals and formations, handing over everything including the means to break down Serving Command Palace. Further investigation, with Song Jin delving into Yuan Li's mind, confirms much, but also uncovers sealed secrets, especially the method of sacrificing to the Blood Yin realm, and a troubling revelation. Any knowledge of So Huio was automatically erased from Yuan Li's memory by a powerful seal. When all useful knowledge has been extracted, Yuan Li's pleas for his life are dismissed. He is swiftly executed, his soul severed by the formless sword. Attention then turns to Yuan Li's blood body, a puppet cultivated for devilish arts but left untainted. Using forbidden methods, consciousness is transferred into the blood body, animating it as a new, useful puppet for future investigation. Song Jin gleefully claims the spirit stones and elixirs from Yuan Li's vault, but among the treasures, a jade Noragai belonging to Wuluriang's great-grandson is found, bringing a moment of bittersweet closure as it is returned to Wuluriang, who is left mourning but grateful. With Yuan Li's blood spirits hunted down and consumed by the Nether Crossing ship to prevent any chance of resurrection, the last traces of him are erased from the world. The ship hovers over Cheonsaek City, devouring the final blood spirit and ensuring Yuan Li's evil will not return. Afterward, with a heavy but determined heart, the protagonist descends to a familiar workshop in the city, clutching the Jade Noragai and preparing to reunite with someone important, all while hoping that the scars left by Yuan Li will finally fade from the world. Returning to the magic artifact shop, the familiar sound of craftswork echoes as he waits. When Hyanghua emerges, both their Noragai tremble and resonate, revealing their connection. The future Noragai he brought merges with her own, as if fate refuses duplicates, transforming the treasure into something even more mysterious. Though the phenomenon is fascinating, Hyanghua mourns her mother's lost heirloom, but he insists she keep the artifact, returning it to her with words heavy with regret and longing. She is alive and exactly as he remembered, yet she does not recognize him. The woman he loved is not the one before him. He tells her he already has someone he loves, hands her the Noragai, and depart, suppressing the storm of emotions threatening to break through. Boarding the Nether Crossing ship, he asks to be taken anywhere, desperate to escape before his resolve falters. Hyanghua, left behind, is overwhelmed by unfamiliar emotions and tears she can't explain. Though she had imagined many scenarios for the arrival of her destined one, nothing prepared her for the reality. Compelled by a yearning she can't name, she rushes out to find him, but he's already gone. The Noragai in her hand, now glowing with a sacred aura, only deepens her confusion and longing. She resolves to find him, wherever he may be, to understand what has changed her heart so deeply. Elsewhere, Song Jin suggests he learn the ghostly arts of Black Ghost Valley, sensing the storm of death energy and emotion within him, but he declines. Instead, he requests the Devil Legion terracotta scroll, a chi building method compatible with his Dharma treasure, memorizes its core, and quickly moves on, eager to distract himself. Arriving at the Bia clan, he uses Yuan Li's blood body to command obedience, inflicting pain through the 5 elements, blood curse banners to ensure compliance. The Biak clan's millions of spirit stones and all devilish relics are gathered and handed over. He spares them primarily for Byuk Mun Som's sake, withholding the punishment he might otherwise have meted out. Next, the Changmun clan receives a windfall. Appearing through the blood body, he delivers the spirit stones and offers them access to the Nether Crossing ship so their wood attribute cultivators can train at the Serving Command Palace. He leaves advice, insights, and breakthroughs, especially for Chungmun Ryong, whose writings he admires. Hearing their gratitude even through the blood body pains him, but he remains distant, refusing their thanks and urging them to focus on advancement. Turning to the Jinlu clan, he finds no reason for leniency or vengeance. He incapacitates the elders, gives Jinlu Yoncheon a cursed letter, and commands her to collect spirit stones from other regions, ultimately ordering the Jinlu clan to submit to the Cheongmun clan upon completion. A fate that, he suspects, will satisfy all involved. Finally, he visits a village once terrorized by a centipede demon. Seeking to fulfill a lingering curiosity from his previous life, he asks after the child to whom he once read fairy tales, hoping to uncover the hidden secret of a particular storybook. But the village scholar insists no such book exists, nor any tales of the supreme deity or the Ender, leaving him unsettled and unresolved. The cycle of resolving old karma continues, each act a step toward closure, but never quite delivering the peace he seeks. Questions swirl as the absence of the fairy tale book from a previous cycle sparks suspicions about fate, miracles, and the lingering influence of Yang Su-jin. After a brief exchange with a young girl and her mother, an odd sense of something forgotten persists, but there's no time to dwell. Attention turns to the centipede demon terrorizing the area. Martial artists hired by the village are no match for the creature, their attacks thwarted and bodies poisoned. With swift intervention, the demon is subdued, the martial artist saved from the worst of the poison, and the demon's plight revealed. It is protecting its eggs, consumed with loneliness, and begs for its offspring to be helped, even at the cost of its own death. Though moved by the demon's maternal love, the pleas of a martial artist whose lover was eaten remind that justice must be served. The demon's end is swift and merciful, its eggs collected, unremarkable, lacking any demonic aura. After returning to the village and accepting a symbolic white Taoist robe, memories surge, but the journey must continue. The next stop is Serving Command Palace, where various treasures are gathered, including a magic pipe that can, with great risk, grant enlightenment to beasts and powerful talismans for defense. The ultimate goal is the Serving Command Seal, which, reacting to immense fate, bestows its blessing even without being touched. Plans are made with Songjin to ensure the longevity fruit will reach Kim Young-hoon, even if the journey ahead proves fatal. The conversation turns to the upper realms, where spiritual energy is so dense that mortals are non-existent and all are born as cultivators. The disparity between realms stark and almost unbelievable. As the Nether Crossing ship approaches Ascension Path, the mysteries of the Ascension Gate and its connections to various realms are discussed, the stakes of Ascension becoming ever clearer. At the Ascension Gate, the centipede eggs are exposed to the dense energy and the magic pipe, and most scatter, hatching as ordinary centipedes, except for one persistent hatchling that seems fated to stay by the protagonist's side. As preparations are completed, a sudden surge of lightning heralds the appearance of Yang Su-jin's remnant, urging a swift departure and warning of the world's dangers to Enders. The Ascension Gate, acting like a living entity, wrenches the protagonist away, forcibly ejecting the Serving Command Seal in the process. Song Jin and Seo Ran witness the unprecedented event as the gate snaps shut, leaving only silence and the discarded seal, destined to wander the void until it can be freed once more. The journey through the Ascension Gate is a harrowing trial, with violent spatial pressure threatening to crush every bone and sinew. Only by leveraging the formless sword and the heaven-sealing talisman is it possible to withstand the ordeal, though even these seem on the verge of failing as the upper realm draws closer. With blood pouring from his mouth and head pounding, the only way to survive is to merge with Yuan Li's blood body, using it as a skin armor that strengthens the body and prolongs the talisman's protection. As the passage twists through countless beams of light and glimpses of dimensions, consciousness flickers, and at one point a strange, immense jade entity locks eyes for a split second, sending a jolt through mind and spirit. Regaining focus, the relentless spatial pressure returns. The only option is to fight back with swordsmanship, cutting through the void and pressure itself, staving off annihilation by sheer determination and martial mastery. The pressure continues to mount until, with blood pouring from every orifice, a final push shatters through a barrier and brings him to ground in the upper realm. This new world is thick with spiritual energy, far denser than anything before. Immediately, a wood and earth giant in green armor appears, radiating crushing, full-axis pressure, far beyond the likes of any heavenly being encountered so far. Just as death seems imminent, familiar voices intercede. Changmun Sunwoo, Azure Tiger Saint, Jin Byuk, Ho of the Golden Divine, Heavenly Thunder Sect, Whitebone Ghost Devil of Black Ghost Valley, and Seo Huel all accompanied by their sects and retainers from Ascension Path. Even Mad Lord Zhou Yan stands nearby, with team leader Kim Yan collapsed at his side. The four-axis cultivator demands an explanation, suspicious of how someone with only chi-building cultivation could ascend alone. Seo Howell and the others, now rapidly absorbing the upper realm's energy, reveal that they had already reached the peak of heavenly being and only lacked resources for further advancement. Now, with the energy of this realm, they immediately break through to four-axis, neutralizing the giant's authority and stunning onlookers. The gathering is interrupted by the arrival of Elder Gurion, a four-axis dragon of the True Dragon Alliance, who comes to guide the Demon Beast faction. Amidst the shifting alliances and powerful figures, attention turns to the protagonist, whose unique fate and the blessing of the Serving Command Seal allowed him to ascend more swiftly than the others. With all factions eager to claim him, he is given a choice of where to go. As the formless sword is dispersed in a moment of relaxation, suspicion flares among the upper realm's cultivators, who accuse him of being a spy from the Heart Tribe due to his mastery of the Heart Path method. Before any defense can be made, he is struck down and killed instantly, triggering his 13th regression just as he had finally achieved ascension to the upper realm. Opening his eyes to yet another regression, there is immediate confusion upon realizing he is not in the usual forest, but atop the flying immortal platform, the site of his last death. The shock deepens when he grasps that his point of return has been fixed here, meaning the time loop has stabilized, and all his recent actions are now permanent. Every relationship he built, every item given, every life taken or saved, none of it will be undone by another regression. The weight of this permanence stirs a bittersweet sense of relief and accomplishment. Amid this, the leaders of powerful factions, demon tribes, sects, alliances invite him to join them, recognizing his talent. However, he hesitates, overwhelmed by the lack of information and the gravity of the choice. The True Dragon Alliance's elder warned him not to call him king, and the green-armored wooden man and Mad Lord Zhou Yan both show interest in taking him along. Zhou Yan, emanating insanity and overwhelming power, insists he come with him to the Light Spirit Pond, claiming a personal, obsessive purpose involving a mysterious her. As tensions between the Mad Lord and the Wooden Man escalate, the atmosphere becomes fraught. The green-armored wooden man tries to assert control, but Zhou Yan snaps, descending into madness, chewing his own fingers, and unleashing his true power. The resulting clash is catastrophic. Zhou Yan reveals the wonderfully mysterious fortress, unleashing a sky-darkening army of puppets, including two at the four-axis level, overwhelming even the seasoned four-axis cultivators of the Bright Cold Realm. In the chaos, the protagonist's blood-body skin armor barely keeps him alive. He witnesses the sheer might of Zhou Yan, whose fortress and puppet army defeat the green-armored wooden man with terrifying ease. The Mad Lord's puppets and fortress vanish as swiftly as they appeared, and a radiant, nearly ineffable presence, the enigmatic her, materializes at his side. In an instant, her seizes both the protagonist and team leader Kim, rendering resistance futile. Zhou Yan, thrilled at acquiring new materials and disciples, escapes with them, leaving the other four-axis cultivators behind, their fury shaking the land. As they vanish to an uncertain destination, the protagonist realizes that his hesitation to choose a faction has led to his capture by one of the most dangerous beings in the realm, and the world itself seems to tremble at the Mad Lord's rampage.